Hey everybody, Dr. G here. I'm a clinical and forensic psychologist as well as a body language expert, and today we're going to be analyzing the behavior and body language of Harvard professor and astronomer Avi Loeb. Before we get started, a couple of quick things. One, I wanted to make sure you know this is not a psychological evaluation of any kind. These are just my opinions. In addition to that, I do want to remind you to like and subscribe if you want to see more content just like this. All right, let's go. For anybody following the news about the 3I Atlas interstellar object, you've probably seen Professor Loeb talking about it. He's been discussing whether or not this could potentially have alien technology, whether or not it could be a spaceship, whether or not this is something that is not in fact natural, whether or not this is actually a comet or something else. What we're going to be analyzing today is his body language related to whether or not he actually believes that this could be alien technology. When he talks about this, is he talking about this in a fun way, or is he talking about it in a serious way and something that he actually believes is a real potential? All right, let's just jump right in.
So, is it just another fascinating celestial phenomenon, or did the mothership just separate into a squadron of reconnaissance aircraft? Harvard professor Avi Loeb joins us now. That question is only slightly in jest, given everything you've been saying. Did we see it explode, or did we just happen to go back and measure it and say, oh my gosh, it's now much smaller and in a few different pieces?
Well, what we see are 7 jets coming out of these objects, more than 7 actually, after it passed.
So what you're seeing from Professor Loeb right now is pretty standard for his body language. We're going to go back and I'm going to break it down, and then we're going to watch a number of clips of him discussing various aspects of this object. But let's go back for a second.
Now, that question is only slightly in jest, given everything you've been saying. Did we see it explode, or did we just happen to go back and measure?
Now, the smile he's giving right now is very consistent with how he typically is on many of his videos. So if you're wondering why would he be smiling, is that because he's being deceptive? Is that because he's trying to fool people? That's not how I would interpret this. What we would typically see with a smile is that if somebody is lying and they're trying to hide it, they might smile after the lie because they feel good about getting away with it. Sometimes we see that. This is different. This to me appears like excitement. He wants people to listen to him. Let's keep going. I'll explain more.
Did we just happen to go back and measure it and say, oh my gosh, it's now much smaller and in a few different pieces?
Well, what we see are 7 jets.
Now, this is also interesting. You saw him blinking a lot before he started talking. Now, blinking can denote stress. That can suggest that someone is feeling a bit stressed when they're talking about something. Now, he was doing it before he started talking. So whether or not it's a bit of stress because he's doing an interview, I've done interviews like this, it can be a little bit stressful. But you're going to notice the blink rate actually goes back to normal once he starts talking about the object, which means that he may be feeling some stress, but not the kind of stress from lying that you might expect. So far, we're not seeing any signs of deception. So far, we're seeing somebody that's very excited about what they're talking about, but no signs of deception.
Smaller and in a few different pieces.
Well, what we see are 7 jets coming out of these objects, more than 7 actually.
Now, something you probably just noticed, his eyebrows are going up when he says we saw 7 jets. Now, he really wants you to hear that. Now, when we raise our eyebrows, it brings attention to our face. So when you think about him saying we saw 7 jets, we saw more actually, we're seeing the feelings, we're seeing his eyebrows raise because our eyebrows do that automatically, unconsciously, to bring attention to our face because we really want people to listen. When we lie, we tend to raise our eyebrows less during lies because we're afraid of getting caught in our lies. So far, once again, everything he's saying, he seems to absolutely believe.
Data from hundreds of observatories around the Earth, plus the Hubble and Webb telescopes. In the coming weeks, by the middle of December, it will get closest to Earth on December 19th. And by then, I hope we will know the nature of the object, because if it's natural and it disintegrated, we would know what it was made of. We would see the pieces. However, if it maintains its integrity and you see high-speed jets coming out of it, we can measure the speed, we can measure the mass flux. We will know that it's something unusual. So I would hope that...
So you see him moving his arms, you see his eyebrows going up. Once again, this is somebody who is feeling what he is saying. He feels excited by this. You see the smile of excitement. To me, this is someone who is genuinely and passionately talking about this subject. This is someone who really believes that this may be something more than just a natural object flying through the sky.
That by the holidays, we would definitely know what the nature of this object is, and that would be a nice gift for all of us.
Now, you also heard him give a specific timeline. One thing that liars do not like to do is they don't like to say something specific. So he's saying, by the holidays, we will know this. And that also indicates he's taking a scientific approach to this. He's not having fun. He's really trying to explain that he believes all of this.
This object is, and that would be a nice gift for all of us.
Yeah, Merry Christmas. We're being invaded by aliens. At least it sounds like, Avi, we'll know for sure one way or the other, which would be nice to have a definitive answer. Okay, Avi, on December 19th, you're booked on this show to
I will be
reveal
glad
all.
yeah, whatever it is, it's a blind date, and whatever it is, I will let you know
Okay.
if it's a rock or something more exciting. Either way, we'll learn something new.
Something more exciting, maybe the most.
Now, after he said that, you saw his eyes squint a little bit. We tend to squint when we think or hear things that we don't like. So when he says, when it's passing closest to Earth around December 19th, we're going to know what it is, whether it's a rock or something more exciting. To me, there's a little bit of stress around that. It seems like the idea that it's something else might actually be a source of stress. He may not see this as something benign, even if it isn't naturally made. So there seems to be some actual concern there as well.
Whatever it is, I will let you know
Okay.
if it's a rock or something more exciting. Either way, we'll learn something new.
Something more exciting, maybe the most dramatic understatement of the night. Avi Loeb, thank you so much.
So he brings it back to the smile, but for a brief moment there, you could see that as he talked about this, when he talked about as it following closest to the Earth or when it's going to be coming closest to the Earth, there seemed to be some legitimate concern in his face. Watch this again.
Or something more exciting. Either way, we'll learn something new.
Something more exciting, maybe the most dramatic understatement of the night. Avi.
So even if only briefly, it seemed there was some real concern underlying that. All right, let's jump to another clip of him talking about aspects of this interstellar object. Have you ever Googled your own name or email address? Before I had Aura, I did, and wow, it was my full name, my old address, phone number, all sorts of information I did not want people to have. That's why I started using Aura, today's sponsor. If you've ever wondered how scammers get your number or why your inbox is drowning in spam, this is why. They're companies called data brokers that collect and sell your personal information to marketers, scammers, and yes, even stalkers. They do it without your permission. The good news is they're legally required to remove it if you ask. The only issue is that it's time-consuming and they make it as confusing as humanly possible. This is where Aura comes in. They take care of the hard part for you, automatically requesting removals from these data broker sites and keeping your info off of them over time. In the first 2 weeks, you'll see exactly where your personal data is exposed and start watching it disappear without you lifting a finger. It's an all-in-one digital security tool that gives you alerts if your personal info appears on the dark web, real-time fraud alerts for crediting and banking, 24/7 identity monitoring, a secure VPN, antivirus, password manager, and more, plus a $5 million identity theft insurance policy and US-based fraud experts available around the clock. You can try Aura free for 14 days at aura.com/Dr. G. That's enough time for Aura to start scrubbing your info off all of these data broker sites automatically. I'm not leaving myself vulnerable, and you shouldn't either. Go to aura.com/Dr. G and get started with your 14-day trial today. All right, back to the analysis.
Latest images and was struck by the, quote, non-gravitational acceleration of 3I Atlas. It moved faster than gravity could explain. It also looked oddly blue, when in past observations it was red and then green. That Harvard professor was kind enough to give up a Friday night to join me here live. And boy, do I have questions, Professor. First of all, should we be prepping?
We should monitor it. Thanks for having me. That's the way science is done. We shouldn't assume we know the answer about its nature in advance. It's a blind date of interstellar proportions. And my advice on blind dates is watch the other side before you say anything.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. Let's talk about 3I Atlas and
Once again, we're seeing very similar body language. The way that the eyebrows raise, if you're paying attention to that, you know what he really wants you to focus on. The smile on his face. We're not seeing what some people refer to as duper's delight, where he has a normal expression, says something that might be misleading or that he believes is not actually true, and then smiles a little bit afterward. We're not seeing anything like that.
solar system. Why is this one standing out, other than the blue light that I mentioned before?
Oh, first of all, it's very big. It's the size of a city, 5 kilometers in diameter. 1 million times more massive than the first interstellar object that we discovered 8 years ago. This is just the third, and it's so massive. There might not be enough material in interstellar space to deliver such a big object to our neighborhood over the past decade. Another thing is that it moves in the plane of the planets around the sun, which is very surprising, a chance of 1 in 500. it shed some nickel without much iron, which is very surprising because the only place we find nickel without iron is in industrial production of nickel alloys. And most recently...
So now I talk a lot about the eyebrows. I know everybody's got their own sort of tells in terms of what they're really feeling. If you'll notice, he's leaving his eyebrows up the whole time, which means he's once again really excited about what he's saying. When he talked about there being nickel without iron, that we typically see that in industrial settings, that's not something that nature would typically produce, his eyebrows stay up that whole time. There's nothing there that suggests that he doesn't believe every word that he's saying. So I don't think that he's doing this for fun. I don't think he's doing this because it's getting him interviews and things like that. I think he absolutely believes exactly what he's saying and all of the various possibilities that this 3I Atlas could be.
Is in industrial production of nickel alloys. And most recently, as you pointed out, it actually showed some non-gravitational acceleration. There was some propulsion that moved it away from its original trajectory.
Now, you'll notice he blinked a little bit when he said propulsion. And to me, that suggests, once again, the idea that this has propulsion is stressful to him. He takes that seriously enough that he feels it even saying the word propulsion. Watch this right here.
Pointed out, it actually showed some non-gravitational acceleration. There was some propulsion that moved it away from its original trajectory.
See, after saying propulsion, he blinked, saying that it moved it away. So it does sound like he's describing something that he likely believes is not, in fact, entirely natural in origin.
And I would have expected that it would lose 10 to 20% of its mass as a result of the recoil from that mass loss. And we don't see any cometary tail around it in recent days after it passed closest to the sun on October 29th. So all of these are anomalies. There are 10 of them. I didn't list all of them. And that's what makes me ask the question, is this technological in origin? Because when you have...
So you see him laugh and smile before he stated, is this technological in origin? Because he understands how that is going to sound to some people. Some people are going to hear that and they're going to go, this is crazy. Why would I believe that? And so the fact that he laughs a little beforehand rather than after, once again, suggests that he believes what he's saying. This does not appear to be deceptive in any way.
Anomalies, there are 10 of them. I didn't list all of them. And that's what makes me ask the question, is this technological in origin? Because when you have a visitor to your backyard...
See, and there, he said, was this technological in origin? We saw a brief blink, and then he continues to talk. What we would expect if he was lying about this, if he thought this isn't really technological, this is nonsense, but I'm going to say it because it's fun and because people will be interested, what we would see afterwards is we would see him say that, and then maybe a slight smile on one side of the face come up. We might see him trying to stifle feelings that he's having because he doesn't want people to see how he actually feels. We're seeing very much the opposite. He's very excitable. We're seeing everything that he feels. He's showing all of it. He's not trying to hide anything. We always look for what people are trying to hide when they're being deceptive. So far, I haven't seen a single thing that appears to be him trying to hide something, him trying to hide an emotion.
All of them. And that's what makes me ask the question, is this technological in origin? Because when you have...
See, the blinks afterward suggest there's probably some stress at the idea of it being technological in origin. That's a scary idea, probably for somebody who is as knowledgeable as him, because I don't know that much about these things. He certainly does, so even talking about that seems to give him a little bit of stress.
A visitor to your backyard, you better know its nature. Otherwise, it might show up at your front door. And we can't afford to just adopt the most...
See that? We can't afford. He means that. He does not believe that we can afford this. Once again, if he was saying this just for attention or just because he thought it would be fun and interesting to talk about, I don't think that we would be seeing the right kind of reaction that shows that he wants to be seen. He wants people to listen to what he is saying. Very much seeing that continue to have no signs of deception.
Likely interpretation, which is that it's a natural object.
I have heard you say before that sometimes there could be a smarter kid on the cosmic block and that we should be, paying attention, because what if it releases probes? We do that. We go outside our solar system and we release probes. There's something about the glow that I've heard you mention before as well, that it glows toward the sun instead of away from the sun. Is that the way most comets glow, away from the sun, and this one's all backwards?
Yeah, that was during July and August, and usually...
See, there's the squinting again, but we're also seeing the raised eyebrows. These are aspects of this that concern him. So it must be that when he's analyzing this, when he's looking at this going, the tail of this is not facing the right way. That is concerning to him.
Tails are made of dust and gas, and those particles are getting pushed away from the sun by the solar radiation, the solar wind. In its case, we saw that there is a jet pointed towards the sun, exactly the opposite. It's called an antitail, never observed before except some optical illusions where we thought that something is headed towards the sun, but not really. It was always, for a good reason, headed away from the sun. So that's another anomaly that it shows. And with all the others, I'm recommending collecting as much data as possible in the coming weeks before we figure out what this object is.
One of the things that's interesting about the way that Professor Loeb presents is that he seems excited about this, but also has some concerns about it. He's not somebody who's all doom and gloom and saying that everything's awful, but it does seem to be when he thinks about or talks about aspects of this that may not be natural in origin, that actually causes him stress. Now, he's not saying definitively 100% this is alien technology and so on and so forth. He's saying that those are always possibilities, and there's evidence to suggest that there's some unusual aspects to this interstellar object, and those do seem to stress him out, which is very interesting.
So there's a Florida representative as well as a megastar named Kim Kardashian who are demanding, I think you are as well, that NASA open up the files and tell us what they have on this thing. What is it exactly you think NASA may have that they're not sharing?
Well, they have this best image of 3A Atlas from October 2nd to 3rd, and we would love to.
So you see him squinting his eyes as he's once again raising his eyebrows. Listen to what I'm saying, but there's things I'm saying that bother me. He's talking about how NASA has images that we don't have, that have not been released. That seems to bother him. He really wants to see these images. It seems that that would be a great point of data for him. So it's interesting to see how seriously he's taking this as he's talking about NASA's images.
Well, they have this best image of 3A Atlas from October 2nd to 3rd, and we would love to see it. And they said due to some bureaucratic rules, they're not able to release it. I don't think science should be sabotaged by politics, the politics of the day.
All right, we'll go ahead and wrap things up here. Hopefully this is helping you better understand some of the behavior and body language that we saw. Now, one of the things that really stood out to me is how passionate he is about this. He's someone that really, truly wants you to listen. When we feel strongly, we show it in our body language. And when we're being deceptive, we try to hide some of that body language because we don't want people to catch us being deceptive. Professor Loeb did not show any signs of deception. He didn't show any signs of exaggeration. There was nothing that he said that seemed that he was exaggerating it for effect or for fun. I think that many of the points he made, he believes, are very genuine possibilities. Now, he's basically said, we don't know for sure what this is, but we need to be open to these possibilities. And I absolutely believe, based on his body language, that he also believes that what he is stating is, in fact, very much a real possibility. I'm certain there are other experts that disagree about the nature of this interstellar object, that say it's just a comet, we have evidence. I'm sure there are people that make those claims, and they very well may be correct. So I can't say whether or not what he's saying is in fact correct, but I can say that he in fact does believe it. He is making claims that he believes are very real possibilities. If you have any other thoughts about this, or if there's anything else you want me to analyze, please let me know in the comments below. Last thing before we get finished up is I do want to remind you to like and subscribe if you want to see more content just like this. All right, thanks for watching.